Welcome to episode 259 of the Selling Your Screenplay podcast. I'm Ashley Scott Myers, screenwriter and blogger over at sellingyourscreenplay.com. Today I'm interviewing writer-director Meredith Danluck. She started off with the visual arts, moved into making documentary films, and is now writing and directing narrative features. Her most recent project, State Like Sleep, was developed in the Sundance Lab and is now finished and out for distribution. We talked through her process, how she was able to move from documentaries to fictional feature films. We also talked specifically about this project and the Sundance Lab. So very informative interview, so stay tuned for that interview in just a second. If you find this episode valuable, please help me out by giving me a review in iTunes or leaving a comment on YouTube or retweeting the podcast on Twitter or liking or sharing it on Facebook. These social media shares really do help spread word about the podcast, so they're very much appreciated. Any websites or links that I mention in the podcast can be found on my blog in the show notes. I also publish a transcript with every episode in case you'd rather read the show or look at something later on. You can find all the podcast show notes at www.sellingyourscreenplay.com/podcast, and then just look for episode number 259. If you want my free guide, How to Sell a Screenplay in 5 Weeks, you can pick that up by going to sellingyourscreenplay.com/guide. It's completely free. You just put in your email address and I'll send you a new lesson once per week for 5 weeks, along with a bunch of bonus lessons. I teach the whole process of how to sell your screenplay in that guide. I'll teach you how to write a professional logline and query letter and how to find agents, managers, and producers who are looking for material. Really is everything you need to know to sell your screenplay. Just go to sellingyourscreenplay.com/guide. So now let's get into the main segment. Today I'm interviewing writer-director Meredith Danluck. Here is the interview. Welcome, Meredith, to the Selling Your Screenplay podcast. I really appreciate you coming on the show with me today.
Thanks, Ashley. Happy to be here.
So to start out, maybe you could just give us a quick overview of your background. Where did you grow up and how did you get interested in the entertainment business?
I grew up in Miami, Florida, and I actually had I was first interested in visual arts and pursued a career in the art world, and through that started working on videos and multimedia installations, and then slowly kind of crept more into the video space, music videos, and then documentaries. And then in 2012, I did a multi-screen installation that was a 4-screen feature film called North of Southwest of East that I screened at Sundance, and with Ben Foster and Stella Schnabel and all these great actors. And it was really then that I really dedicated everything to pursuing more traditional narrative formats, and started working on my screenplay for State Like Sleep.
Yeah, perfect. I wonder if you can just quickly give us, I noticed you had done a bunch of documentaries when I was preparing for the interview, and I'm always curious, how do you think doing documentaries prepares you for fictional storytelling?
Oh my God. I mean, that was my film school. You know, I worked a lot with Vice, and so I was working on, many short form documentaries, and then a few feature documentaries. And I was producing, directing, editing, and I think through, sitting through hours of interviews and verite footage and really watching people so candidly, I really developed an understanding of dialogue and character, but through these real people and the study of these real people. So it was, I honestly think that I wouldn't have been able to make a movie with the confidence that I have or had on the set of State Like Sleep without that kind of level of preparation that I had for years working in the documentary space.
Yeah, perfect. So let's dig into your latest film, State Like Sleep. Maybe to start out, you can give us a quick logline or pitch for the film. What is this film all about?
It's about a widow of a Belgian film actor who returns to Belgium to clean out their loft and kind of go through their stuff and kind of pack up the life that they had together 1 year later, still very much in the throes of grief, and starts looking into his cell phone and kind of going down this rabbit hole, unraveling this secret life that he had, and builds a case for not suicide, which is how everyone assumed he died, but something a little more nefarious. And so it's it's using the kind of architecture of a murder mystery to explore kind of deeper subject matter of grief and relationships.
Mm-hmm. Where did this idea come from?
A friend of mine had committed suicide a while back, and it really rattled me and a lot of people within our friend group. And I think all of us wound up having feelings of guilt and complicity. And through that process, I noticed everyone kind of building a case of, well, what if? And okay, who was he with? And where was he? And, it was almost like we all became detectives of some sort as a way to explain the death, as if through explaining it, it would undo it and somehow, or remove us from any kind of fault. And it was a way of dealing with grief that I found to be really compelling. And then I read Joan Didion's The Year of Magical Thinking, where she chronicles her experience of the year after her husband's passing. And she said that within the first few weeks, there was that same kind of almost like and that was that enabled her, to have those feelings of, well, if I can just explain this, I can reverse it, and which is, of course, not true, but it's something that I think everyone does, and I felt like it really lent itself to the cinematic space, and this, kind of using the tropes of noir or mystery, and all of the kind of red herrings and the double crossing and the misdirection that is utilized in those kinds of films, using them to service this very deep psychological space.
And I'm curious, because that was going to be my next question, is why go the sort of the noir thriller route as opposed to maybe the drama route? What was sort of impacting your decision there? Was there business decisions, in terms of getting the film financed? Dramas are harder than thrillers. Maybe just walk us through that process.
It really was, it just wound up being the tone and the motor of the script as I was writing it. I kept being drawn to that mentality of what happened, what happened to this person? Where was he in the few days before? So really, like this concept of exploring grief, exploring, the loss due to, these circumstances of suicide and the drugs, it just lent itself to this genre of unraveling a mystery, and so it just became tonally the thing that really fit.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about the Sundance Lab a little bit. This script was developed in the Sundance Screenwriters Lab. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes.
So let's talk about that. I know there's a lot of people that aspire to get into the Sundance Lab. Maybe you can talk about that process. How do you submit your film? And then maybe just walk us through the process once you're accepted.
Oh, my God. Submitting to Sundance was like submitting to college all over again. There's a couple different ways. Some people get recommended. So, if you know someone who's been in the lab, or if you know a director or an actor or whatever. I didn't really, like I said, I had been coming from the art world, and I didn't have those kinds of connections, those Hollywood, filmmaking, indie connections. So I just submitted, and I you submit, I think, the first 10 pages of your screenplay and a cover letter. And then you go through another stage where you submit your full screenplay, and then you do an interview. I mean, I think there's like 3 or 4 stages. And then you get shortlisted, and then I was accepted, and it changed my approach to the crafting of the script completely. Just the kind of dogged discipline being around other writers. The advisors there are incredibly successful, talented screenwriters, and just seeing them sharing their processes, and it was really eye-opening. And then of course it really helps get the script seen in the world.
Mm-hmm. So how long does the lab? Do you actually go up to Utah, to Park City? You hang out there for a week or a month? What is the actual logistics of it?
Yeah, so the Screenwriting Lab is actually only 5 days, but it's really intense, and it feels like it's a month long. But yeah, the Screenwriting Lab is 5 days. You don't actually do any writing there, but you have these intense one-on-one conversations with the different advisors, and it's a few hours conversations, and then you have like kind of workshops. We did a workshop with Joan Tewksbury, who's an incredible screenwriter. And then you can apply. Once you've gone through the Writers Lab, you can apply to the Directors Lab, where that is a 5-week program where you are in Utah, and you're able to shoot, I think, 4 scenes from the script with actors, and you kind of get it up on its feet and workshop it and talk about it. And now you have different directors and actors coming in as your advisors, and it's really, I mean, what they do there is it's an incredibly like collaborative, nurturing environment that is, I honestly, it's so supportive, and I think it's an incredible creative environment for sure, life-changing.
Yeah, perfect. So let's just talk about your writing process. In general, how long do you spend doing your outline versus how long do you spend actually in final draft writing, dialogue and character descriptions and scene descriptions?
That's such a great question. I spend a pretty good amount of time getting my outline before I actually start writing in final draft. I don't know, it changes. I have another script that I finished a draft of last week, and I was joking, okay, well, once you type the words "the end," you're still really far from the end, because it's just that's the process, is the continual revision. But yeah, for me, it's really important to have a very clear understanding of the story from start to finish. And before I sit down to actually write a scene. And then, once you get the draft down, then there's something that happens where it becomes much more fluid. The very first draft, the words on paper draft, is once you read through that, it's now telling you kind of what it needs, and the characters are coming alive, and the revision process starts. And it's always there's something about the second draft that I think is really hard, because you've worked so hard to get that first draft, and then you read through it and you're like, yeah, okay, I see it, I love it, I the characters, the plot, whatever it is, that it's there, but it's not what it should be. And so there's something kind of depressing about having to go back into it, but that's just the way it goes, right? So
Yeah. How can people see State Like Sleep? Do you know what the release schedule is going to be like?
I do. It's available VOD on January 1st and in theaters on January 4th.
Okay, perfect. And what's the best way for people to keep up with what you're doing? Twitter, Facebook, a blog, anything you're comfortable sharing, I'll round up and put in the show notes.
I have Instagram. That's my only social media.
No
But
worries.
it's yeah, I'm on Instagram, M Danluck. That's about.
Okay, perfect. I'll round that up and, as I said, put that in the show notes. Well, Meredith, I really appreciate you coming and talking with me today. Good luck with this film and all your future films.
Thanks so much. Great questions.
Hey, no problem. Thank you very much. We'll talk to you later.
Thank you. Bye bye.
I just want to talk quickly about SYS Select. It's a service for screenwriters to help them sell their screenplays and get writing assignments. The first part of the service is the SYS Select Screenplay database. Screenwriters upload their screenplays along with a logline, synopsis, and other pertinent information like budget and genre, and then producers search for and hopefully find screenplays that they want to produce. Dozens of producers are in the system looking for screenplays right now. I launched this service at the beginning of this year, and we've already started to see some success stories. You can check out SYS podcast episode 222 with Steve Deering. He was the first official success story to come out of the SYS Select database. You can learn more about all of this by going to sellingyourscreenplayselect.com. When you join SYS Select, you get access to the screenplay database that I just mentioned, along with all the other services that we're providing to SYS Select members. Those services include the monthly newsletter that goes out to our list of 400 producers who are actively seeking writers and screenplays. Each SYS Select member can pitch one screenplay in this monthly newsletter. We also have partnered with one of the premier paid screenwriting leads sites, so I can syndicate their leads to SYS Select members. There are lots of great paid leads coming in each week from our partner. Recently, we've been getting 5 to 10 high-quality paid leads per week. These leads run the gamut. There's producers looking for a specific type of spec script to producers looking to hire a screenwriter to write up one of their ideas or properties. They're looking for shorts, they're looking for features, TV and web series pilots, all types of different projects. If you sign up for SYS Select, you'll get these leads emailed directly to you several times per week. Also, you can get access to the SYS Select forum where we will help you with your logline and query letter and answer any screenwriting related questions that you might have. Also in the forum are all the recorded screenwriting classes that I've done over the years, so you'll have access to all of those as well. The classes cover every part of the writing process, from concept to outlining to the first act, second act, third act, as well as other topics like writing short films and pitching your projects in person. Once again, if this sounds like something you would like to learn more about, please go to sellingyourscreenplayselect.com. Again, that's sellingyourscreenplayselect.com. A quick shout out to the folks who were selected for this year's The Budget List. The Budget List is the annual list that I put together here at SYS Select, which highlights some of the best low-budget screenplays that have come through the SYS system and elsewhere. This is the second annual list, and at least from last year's reception, seems like there's a lot of producers interested in looking at something like this. There's a lot of producers looking for low-budget material, so I thought this would be a great way to highlight some of the best scripts that I've interacted with over the course of the last year. So without further ado, just a big congratulations to Phyllis Corley, Albert Tevanya, Julia Burjan, Nicholas Pollock, Ramis LaPadria, Martin Bartlett, Leslie Witter, and Benjamin Enos. Those are the writers that have been selected for this year's The Budget List. Again, big congratulations to those folks. I will link to the budget list in the show notes, so if you want to learn more about it or check out some of the loglines for these scripts, just go to the show notes and click on that link. On the next episode of the podcast, I'm going to be interviewing Laura Eason, who started off as a playwright and eventually moved into television writing for House of Cards, and now she is doing feature films. She just wrote a film called Here and Now, starring Sarah Jessica Parker. We talked through her entire career as a playwright, how she was able to use that to get herself into television writing and then ultimately feature film writing. So keep an eye out for that episode. And that's it for 2018 for the SYS Select podcast. Thank you for listening, and good luck to everybody in the new year.